Hey guys, this is John McLaughlin.
This is Dave Barnes.
And welcome to Dadville. Dadville is a podcast where we talk about life, love, and the pursuit of awesome dadding.
You know, this episode, it's just me and John chatting some more. One of the things that's really fun about Dadville is having our guests on, but one of the other reasons we want to do it is just to get together and chat, talk about what it's like being a dad, any funny things we've experienced. You know, this is just us chatting. What you'll hear in this episode is why we really thought to do the podcast, because John and I spend so much time hanging out.
This is what normally happens.
This is, that's a great way to say it. This is a little window into real life with John and Dave.
So all that said, thanks for coming.
Pull up a seat.
And enjoy your time in Dadville.
Dadville. Knock, knock, who's there? It's Dadville. Back at your front door.
Were you planning that? Because that is the greatest way to start.
Holding our trick-or-treat bags. Just dadding.
It's just the right amount of creepy and entertaining.
Which is basically dads.
Can
you sum up dads?
You're gonna be creepy.
So, yeah.
Look, when the babysitter comes over, you got to watch, do you have pants on?
Yeah. I find myself bowing a lot. Like I do oh, good to see you. I do sort of.
Because bowing's not creepy. That's
very
disarming. And
my dad, this is a true story. One of my best friends, Phil, growing up, Phil alerted me to something, which this could be a whole other subject, but Phil alerted me to something that I was clueless about my dad. That he would come over and we were talking about it. I was like, dude, let's go hang at my house. He's like, I don't know if I can hang at your house right now. I was like, why? He's like, because it's Saturday and it's 2 p.m. and your dad's going to just be in his undies. And I was like, and it was like everything in my life went tightened. And I was like, oh my God, he will absolutely be in his undies. We walked in the door. Literally, Phil was like, watch. We open the door. My dad comes out to the top of the landing at the top of the stairs. And he goes, hey guys, tighty whitey V-neck tucked into underwear. What are you guys up to?
What is that?
I want to say aerodynamics. It's efficiency. Because if he's got to go, man.
Sometimes you see that in old movies or something like that. Guys tucking their shirts. And I always thought growing up, is there a time where am I going to have to do that?
It's for exactly that moment. If someone walks in on you, you're slightly formal.
Your friend Phil did not see the value in that.
No, he saw other things.
Like, what's the deal? His shirt's tucked in.
Look at him. He's
no. The shirt's tucked in. You think it's out?
He's underwear casual.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was one of those moments I was like, I didn't even realize that this. Yeah. I was so used to that as a normal dynamic in my house.
Can we get vulnerable here? Do you
Please.
Do that?
I mean, I just talked about my dad in underwear.
Yeah.
Do I do that?
Do you do that?
Do I tuck my underwear into my...
No. Well, yeah, you can answer that if you want.
I don't.
I feel like you do. Do you walk around your house in your underwear?
No, I kind of have two modes. I'm either in the buck or I'm clothed. I don't do a half. I tend to be either, as God made me, or I'm fully clothed. Not fully clothed, but I mean, I have everything that should be covered is covered.
So maybe the next time we get together, you could do clothed.
That's fair. I didn't know if this was going to be weird or not.
It is weird. I feel like Phil right now.
That's good.
I have memories of my dad kind of on the weekends. He's in his underwear.
Listen, he earned that.
Tidy whities. He earned it.
He did. He literally did.
He's been working all week.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to wear clothes.
No.
I never do that. I mean, I'm not saying I never do that, but it's only functionally. If I've got my underwear on, but the shorts I want to wear are in the dryer or whatever, I'll walk through the house and get,
Hold on. You're functionally, we need to talk about this. There's a functional, how would we define that? Functional partial nudity.
Yeah, it's functionally partial nudity.
I really enjoy that.
It's like, if you see me like that, it's temporary.
Yeah. I know you're on the way to somewhere. Yeah.
I'm working on it.
Yeah, you're between A and B.
Yeah.
I may not be.
Also,
that's the problem.
My underwear is a lot more. I don't do the tidy whities.
Yeah.
I do the tidy black and blue.
Blueies.
And what am I wearing right now? They're just black.
Yeah.
Which is a little more formal.
That's Yeah.
I feel like if we're gonna have company, that's a little more inviting.
Yeah.
Than the white.
I do have moments where I genuinely have terror that someone is going to show up at the house, and I just haven't thought. I am so used to being in my underwear in those moments where, again, you're transitioning from one outfit to the other or from nudity to an outfit. And I just don't think. I'm so used to
or from one pair of underwear to another. Maybe you put one on and you're like, no.
This needs another pair, and you put those over the other ones.
And, because company's coming over.
Yeah. But I do have these moments of, and I'm being 1,000% sincere, where I'm just going to be so comfortable in whatever that I'm going to I'll hear you guys downstairs and walk down and be like, oh my gosh, I'm wearing underwear. I'm going to go back upstairs.
Which we lived with you guys for 2 months, something like that. I'm really surprised that didn't happen.
I know. I have way too much respect for Amy. that trumped my airheadedness.
Yeah. Which, side note, Amy, she has this awesome story of, it's like a Saturday morning, her dad got up and went into her room, jumped into her bed, because it's like, he's excited, let's go down and have breakfast. Yeah. And she had a friend come sleep over. No. Just jumped in. Amy's in the bathroom.
No, John.
Jumped in the bed.
Amy's not even in the bed.
She's not in the bed.
Oh, John. What happened?
I don't think that she's seen that girl since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long was he? What was it? 10 years jail? 5?
Well, he should be out in December, but it's always.
God,
we've learned to not get our hopes up. His letters are getting more and more confusing.
Yeah, so, as they should be. I also just want to say quick drive-by. I did go get my 40-year-old physical today.
Oh, that's right. Mm-hmm. How did it go?
I want to tell you how thankful I was to my doctor that he literally said, we're not going to do any of the weird stuff today.
So you have to get together again or what?
Well, I don't know. I don't care. I was just so glad we didn't have to. And this is the other thing, too.
See, I'm assuming you had geared yourself up.
I didn't really sleep well last night because I was
you're ready to go. Let's get this over with.
A lot of things are going to be happening to me that I need to be okay with and ready for.
Right.
Literally the first thing he said, because he's my age, he's 40. I know him somewhat through mutual friends. And he's like, I just want to start this by saying we're not going to do any of the weird stuff. And I was like, there's no better, other than saying I have a check for $1 million for you that I want to give you. That's the best thing you could have said. And we both laughed, and it just made it so great. I will say one of the things that was really interesting about the conversation is he had a girl in there who was kind of writing down. It's really smart. Instead of him sitting there the whole time you talk to him and he's typing, he had someone that was notating for him, who was a sweet, really cute 25-year-old girl. And I'm thinking, I respect this. But, he's asking very vulnerable, telling questions. And I'm trying to so I had to turn to her and go, I'm so sorry. And she was like, oh, you don't know the things that I've heard. And I was like, oh, okay, I feel better. But, it was really, he's asking very probing questions. Thankfully, he's not literally probing, but he was asking probing questions. It was such an interesting.
See, I would be a little, as relieved as I would be in that moment, I would be like, come on, man. I've geared myself up to this.
I know.
Let's get it over with. I'm not going to come back and do it.
I brushed my teeth. Yeah. I wanted to be presentable.
I brushed everywhere. I'm ready to do this.
I'm fully manicured.
That's disappointing.
Yeah. We kind of felt like we should just kick it off talking about our situations.
I put together a couple questions. So I'm going to start pre-dad.
Okay,
PD. Growing up, did you think about?
I did have a dad.
You did have a dad?
Yes.
Okay.
He also had a dad.
Wow. What about his
I
dad?
Can't. That's as far as I go.
So when you were growing up, did you think about being a dad? Were you like, I definitely want to have kids?
Yeah. So one of the tricky things about being a preacher's kid for us in a small town in Mississippi is we were kind of on full-time nursery duty. We basically...
You kind of were a dad.
Genuinely. At 10, I was like, if a nursery worker didn't show up, it was me and Beth, and they're keeping kids.
Yeah.
I love kids. I've always loved kids. So I think really early on, I was like, yeah, I want to have a family and have a bunch of crazy kids running around. So it kind of was always on the periphery for me.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's not a normal situation for a 10-year-old kid.
But I've always been like that. My mom and dad talk about that all the time. Not that I was ever the baby whisperer, but I definitely felt comfortable around kids. To the point that me and Micah, my best friend in college, to earn just side money, we would babysit at the local church we would keep the nursery and stuff. And we were, 20 years old at GSU. and we loved it. And it was so fun because we have to make up games to keep the kids. Like one of the games I remember one afternoon we were in the back, and these are like 7, 8-year-olds, and so it'd be like, all right, guys, I got a game. Whoever can count and touch all of the fence poles wins the game. And this lot was enormous. And they would be like, no, and be like, can't do it. Let's not even play that because you can't do it. It's too many. And it'd be like, and literally you just see them out there, 1, 2, 3, and they'd forget. And there were probably 300 of these things.
That is a genius game.
So we would do, I had a game.
You and Micah are just sitting on lawn chairs.
And then they'd catch us because we'd be laughing. And then you'd see them sort of Lord of the Flies up over there. They'd be like, wait a second. And you'd see them kind of huddle together, and then they'd all chase us. And, the other game I played with this one kid who had terrible ADHD was how many times could you touch each wall in a row as fast as you could.
So he's just running back
literally
and forth.
just 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Faster, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then he just toast
passes
for the
out.
toast for the rest of the time.
Yeah.
So I always kind of, I did always love kids.
Yeah,
wanted kids. What about you?
That's interesting. Same thing. I love kids, and growing up, I wasn't like weirded out by babies and things like that. I always loved being around kids, but I don't remember thinking about it really either way. I remember in high school really wanting to get married.
Yeah.
Like I really, like whatever girl I was dating at the time, I was like, this is it.
This is it.
No, this is it. I was wrong. Forget about the last one. This is the one. We're getting married right after high school.
Yep.
So I think I was more in that mode, wanting to make babies than,
take
care of babies.
I would have been there for the handoff.
Yeah. But like you in college, I was actually a Manny for a family.
No way.
Yeah. These 2 little kids, Gabe and Scoot.
Is that their last name?
2 and 4.
Johann Gabe and Scoot?
Gabe and Scooten. Yeah.
In German.
Gabe and Scooten. This was in Anderson, Indiana. I watched them every day, like all afternoon kind of a thing.
Wow.
Like,
for how long?
Classes. I don't remember. It was like, all my classes were in the morning, so I would watch them. I would like pick them up from school. I had car seats in my car.
No way.
It was that level.
John.
For a couple years. I loved it. Even then, I wasn't necessarily thinking, I really want to have kids,
Yeah.
Well, I think I just assumed I would have kids for sure.
Well, I think if I had been exposed at that level, I might not have been as enthusiastic because mine were always sort of brushes,
Right. I loved those kids. It was exhausting.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But I will say this, and this is an embarrassing admission, but this is true. I had Ann Geddes calendars in my room. That I'm hand on a Bible. 2 years. Mike would be like, what are you doing? I was like, dude, whatever. I just love kids, man. These pictures are freaking adorable. True story.
They are adorable.
Thank you.
So I feel like whenever I talk to new parents, I'm always most interested in talking about the first week that they became parents.
Yeah.
A couple of days at the hospital when you brought them home, because you're so sleep deprived. And everything, your senses are on such high alert because all of a sudden you are a parent. I mean, it's such an interesting time. Everybody has stories. So I'm curious, with any or all of your kids, let's say the first couple of weeks, you have any memories that you
so Ben is our oldest, who's 6, and I think he came we were excited. We had been trying to have kids for not too long, but long enough that we were in it to win it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was definitely a purposed, excited, thing.
Yeah.
I just remember those first couple of months being the darkest of dark months because I think both of us hadn't really thought about what was about to happen. We're both first children. We're both A-type. We're both driven. We're a lot, both of us. We're both opinionated. We're both strong-willed.
Right.
So there's not really a yin to that yang with us, which is, I think, what makes our marriage so wonderful in a lot of ways, but it can be tricky sometimes. And I think for us, he just kind of was he was like a atomic bomb because it was just kind of oh my gosh. And I think too, we kind of overcompensated. We ditched everything. We weren't oh, we can do this. Just throw them on your chest and let's walk down and get some food. We were no, we can't leave the house. It's going to be too much, right. And so I remember one of our friends came over to give us food in that first month. And I will never forget this. I remember where I was sitting watching TV. Ben was sleeping right next to me. Annie may have been in the kitchen or something. And our friend comes, she's like, hey, I got the food just dropped off in the kitchen. How you doing? And I was like, I'm not doing good. She's like, oh my gosh. Oh, you're being serious. Like, yeah, I don't know that this was a good idea. This is miserable. And she was pregnant with their third. And I remember genuinely saying, I don't understand why you chose to do this again.
Yeah.
And I was 1,000% serious.
Yeah.
And she was like, I know you don't believe me. But 1, I know exactly how you feel. 2, it really gets infinitely better. And 3, you probably won't remember this part of it.
See, that third one fascinates me, what you forget about, you know?
Oh, God, he put some chemical in our brains. It's just like wipe it clean.
Yeah.
It's like the good times come in and scrub it all out.
And that second one, how it gets infinitely better. Sometimes I feel like having kids is like what I can imagine boot camp is like. I've never been to boot camp.
Yeah.
It breaks you down to the very bottom.
So quickly.
Very bottom. And then 2 weeks in, you get an hour and a half of straight sleep, and you're like, I feel like a human being again.
Yeah. And
whereas 3 weeks before that, you'd be like, an hour and a half of sleep, that's horrible.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
All of everything just goes down to the bare. It's survival.
You are naked and afraid. Except it's life and it's your house. And there's a human. But then some of us, I know, like you, on the very first night, feel like have a sort of spiritual. Well,
so the hospital story is so shameful because it was literally night 1. Luca was born at like 5:55 p.m. This is 2:30 in the morning. It hasn't even been, you know. But anyway, we're in the hospital. We're new parents, so we're like, no, we're not going to do the nursery. Thank you very much, but the baby can stay with us.
She will stay in here,
and all the nurses, I'm sure, will just like, oh Lord.
Okay, good. I'll see you at 3 a.m.
Yeah, I'll see you in 4 hours.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm like super dad. I'm like, Amy, you sleep. I will take Luca. You need to get your rest.
You're like, I was made for this.
I was made for this. I had car seats in my Nissan Pulsar in college. So, there's this little curtain that divides Amy and I'm on the other side. And they literally have like a little couch for dads that you can like pull it out by the window. It's this beautiful hospital. It's this great view of the sky and the stars. And Lucas starts crying, and she does not stop crying. And this is not going to result in some like amazing amount of time. It's shameful. She probably was crying for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But I was so tired. And I'm doing the like bounce thing, the lunge thing.
Yeah.
And I remember this moment clear as day, and as ridiculous as it sounds, this is 100% what I felt in that moment. I look up at the stars, and I'm like, well, God, you've abandoned us. That is literally what I felt. Amy and I talk about it all the time. I genuinely felt like my Lord and Savior had abandoned.
See, God was like,
He's not there to help us.
Meanwhile, you're holding this beautiful child that God has been like,
healthy baby girl.
And you're like, oh, you
have abandoned.
You hate.
Make her stop.
You hate me. You hate me.
But that's just a testament to A, my immaturity, and B, the power of sleep deprivation.
And you cannot get ready for it. I don't care what. No. I don't care about it. So like, go to the Mons class, go to read baby books. Doesn't matter.
No.
You get into it and you're like, oh my gosh, I've never felt like this before.
Man, Dave, my body is burning right now.
John, I've said that about your body since I've known you.
Thank you so much. But it's burning because of this full body workout that I'm doing with my new cross rope.
Oh, dude, I have a 1-pack now. Have you seen it?
Yeah, you keep showing it to me.
I know.
I tell you what, cross rope is so much more of an interesting workout than running or lifting weights. I mean, I just adjust the ropes and the handles, and bam, I have a more intense workout, and I can make it easier for when I'm lazy.
Yeah, it was so easy to get started. I got the ropes, download the app, and I was ready for one of the better workouts I've ever done, and I can do it at home.
Mm-hmm. And here's a better thing. Crossrope is offering $40 off for Dadville dads. Just visit crossrope.com/Dadville.
And that can be moms too. Listen, okay, John, you forgot to mention they'll also get free shipping through that link.
Free shipping.
I said it.
So true. So just head to CROSSROPE.com/Dadville to get yours today.
Please tell the lunch story.
Well, okay, side note. Luca, when she was born, she went to the NICU, which is a very common thing for babies to go to the NICU. And then she loses a little bit of baby weight. And
which is scary because they don't weigh anything to begin with.
It's scary.
So losing ounces, which they do, like basically come out and then they're
gonna lose weight.
And then they drop weight almost immediately.
Yeah. So all this stuff we now know is pretty common. But the hospital had some like 11-ounce rule or something like that. They lose more than 11 ounces. Anyway, so Luca was put on some kind of a flag list of like she's losing too much weight. So we are on high alert. They say that we have to give her like more milk. So Amy's breastfeeding her every 2 hours, as you do, but she also has to pump, and then we have to put extra milk into this little syringe thing that has this little tube thing. So when Luca is feeding, I have to sneak this little tube in like the side of her mouth, and then I'm also feeding her. So she's getting even more milk. All this to say, it was an exhausting process that we did every 2 hours. So I'm trying to, again, be like super dad and let Amy sleep in between because Luca is not sleeping at all. I remember walking around the house, pitch dark, and I would just go over to windows to see if she's asleep. If she's asleep.
Yes.
It's like I'm walking around, I'm walking. And if I was walking, she wasn't crying. I'm walking, and maybe 10 minutes would go by. I'm like, surely she's asleep. I go over to the window, and she's just staring right at me, And so I'm either walking around the house or I have to do these like deep lunges. And I will say this is the second piece of advice because this was actually useful with both of our girls. If I did this, they did not cry, but you have to like violently like lunge over to your left and then go deep.
Yeah.
Go real deep.
Yeah, you're
and
almost
then
at the
like
floor.
lunge way over to your right. So it's like your kid is in like some sort of carnival ride.
Yeah.
But it really calmed them down. The problem is after doing it about 4,000 times and it's 4 a.m, I remember there was one night where Luca, if I stopped, she would start crying. She wasn't asleep, but she wasn't crying when I was doing it. But I was doing it so much that I was literally crying. And I was crying because I can't stop. If I stop, she'll start crying, but I'm about to die. I can't feel my knees.
And they're shaking, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like just.
Yeah. So.
And I think every dad has a little groove. They have a little pattern. They have a little system. It's either the way you walk around the house or the amount you bounce them, the way you bounce them, the way their little head fits in your thing, and a certain way. Like one of the things I remember somebody showed us is we watched that. It's everybody's watched this video, but it's the guy that does the shushing. It's all the S's.
The happiest baby on the block.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
But one of them is you can barely bounce their head. Did you know this? Like you can do this way where you hold them and their head's in the crook of your arm, and you just barely kind of do it, and it makes their head kind of just barely go back and forth.
Like a bobblehead.
Yeah.
Doll.
But it kind of duplicates the womb. It replicates the womb. So anything that makes them feel like they're in the womb is better. So movement is actually huge, which I think is why, you pace around the house and have to do these lunges.
Yeah.
But I remember like you just have a million little tricks. You just learn all these little, and give her to me. If I walk over here and move this way, and then the AC unit barely hits her feet, and then I can
gotta put it at 72.
72, and then
72.
put the Flintstones on and loop the intro song. Just loop the intro. Okay, look, then but you find as a dad, you sort of find all of these little tricks. You find all these ways that you kind of go, oh, there's my little groove. That's like I had a sleep machine app on my phone, and it was a certain one. It wasn't just a random. It was a certain one, and I would have it near a certain part of their little head, near the ear, and I would hold it in my arm a certain way and move, and it was like, most of the time it worked pretty well.
Yeah.
But you just figure your little thing out. You're like, okay, with her, this is what she likes. She likes the little bit of movement and me sitting down, or And the worst was your point. I mean, I don't think there's a darker moment in my life than when she is out. Oh, she is out. And I am so tired and I'm about to transition her into this little crib and I get to go to sleep again. And you look down and she's like just huge eyes staring at you, judging you, shaming you. Or the transition wakes her up. Like you accidentally bump your arm on the crib side and you're like, that little anger is the deepest, most volcanic.
I never felt it before, kids.
No.
I had no reason to.
No, ever.
Yeah, I'm not an angry guy.
No.
Right?
But in those moments,
in that scenario,
oh my gosh. That's you're like, God, you're not real. I don't believe anything you've ever said about
you've
love.
abandoned us.
Yeah. Here we go again, God.
So now, this is a big issue in my house.
Okay.
I want to know, do your kids, do they favor Annie all the time? Did they favor
Let's put
her?
it this way. Sam, who's 2, I don't know that he knew he had a dad until about 2 months ago. I was either a janitor, I kept the lawn mowed to some degree. I tended to care a lot about the other 2 children, and I was around. But I think
he's like, this is great, the nanny for the other 2.
Yeah,
That's
the
perfect.
Manny. He's
Way
great.
to go, Mom. That's perfect.
They do to a degree that I've wondered if it's unhealthy. I think like they so favor her that I've genuinely started to look back and go, did I shirk them? Did I was there something I did or didn't do that they just like?
Yeah.
I don't.
That thought right there, I have thought 1,000 times.
I mean,
already.
I will say, Xana, who is 4, she has just started to slowly transition into wanting me. So if she scuffs her leg, which has been really sweet,
Yeah.
But I said the same the other day. I was like, I think this is the best way to describe it. If Annie is around, they want her. And I don't know if you felt this way with your girls. I feel like we've talked about this. If she is around, she's just a magnet. They are more emotional. They're more easily hurt. The nurturing part of having mom within grasp sort of elicits more emotion.
Yeah.
It elicits more pain because I don't know what it is. She left about 3 months ago for a weekend to go see some friends down in Mississippi. And I remember it being like, are you going to be cool? And I was like, yeah, I mean, it'd be a little tricky, but I got it. It's all good. Mom and dad are in town now. And so I was like, they're around. We're going to see them some. It was like 3 days. Hand on a Bible, probably the most easygoing days I've had with them.
Yeah.
I don't mean like it went better than I thought. I mean like she would come and be like, oh my God, are you okay? And I'd be like, yeah, I mean, they're playing in the playroom. I'm kind of working on my computer. Something. Really? Is Sam asleep? Yeah, I just put him down. Okay, well, listen, I'll check back in 3. I'm telling you, she came back and was like, how'd it go? It was, dare I say, easier?
Totally.
Because I think there's just something in her that they're like, Mom, I hit my day. Where it's like, literally the other night I was putting Sam down. It was so cute. And Annie wasn't there. And he knew she wasn't there. So I was like, all right, bud, Daddy's going to put you down, which I love to do. But he still kind of puts up fights sometimes.
Yeah.
But he literally looked at me. He's like, Mama. I was like, no, bud, Mama's gone. Remember? And he was like, Mama don't? I was like, yeah, Mama's gone. He said, okay. And it was, he just surrendered. We laughed. I read a book. And I put him down. But it's because he had to know, is Mom accessible right now? No, she's not.
That changes his whole world.
It's literally as a 2-year-old, he was like, oh yeah, then I just flipped this little switch.
Yeah, I feel like we could do an entire episode on just this topic.
Yeah.
Because this is something that I know that it's a little cliche, like kids tend to be, I mean, when I was growing up, if I fell down, I would run to my mom.
Oh yeah, every time. Yeah, for sure.
So I know that this is not like we're breaking ground here, making history, but I just didn't think about it.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, like it does make you think, what did I do something?
Yeah.
Because I'm around a lot.
Yeah.
And especially I don't remember the first time that I went on like a longer tour when Luca was around, but it was clear me being gone there's no logical excuse for this.
Yeah.
And I feel like Luca is getting to the point where, like last night at the dinner table, she gets done with her dinner and she wants to come sit on my lap. And that is like a moment where in my mind, I hear her say it, and I'm like, I have to play it cool.
Yeah,
I want
don't overdo
I want
this.
to like take everyone to Italy. I'm so excited, But we're still like at night, before bed. They want mommy to lay with her.
Yeah.
With them.
Yeah.
If I'm laying with them, they're at best they're a little miffed about it, but they're fine. It's like, well, I get it. You guys are kind of a team, I guess.
Or I get it. Mom's not here. She's not here. Oh yeah, well
Mom's
of course.
not here.
Yeah,
there's nothing you can do. Even then, there are some nights that it's just they're distraught. Like if I'm leaving, it's cute. I'm walking out the door and I'm like, bye guys, and maybe Livy will run up and be like, I want a hug. Okay, bye, Daddy.
Yeah, but there's no real.
Amy could go get the mail.
Oh,
they will freak out.
If the front door shuts in my house, Sam is like, Mama. Mama. This is the thing, and I want to say this to the moms out there. Okay, can we talk to the moms for a second? Mama, I know I love you. I know I love you, Mama. God, that song is so good.
So good.
But here's the thing to the moms out there, and we've talked about this a lot. I don't think women understand, because we are more Neanderthal. We're not as emotionally developed as on generally as women.
Agreed.
Are. It is tough, dads. I want to get an amen from y'all out there. It is tough to consistently, on a daily, almost hourly basis, be rejected by your kids for the mother.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm a caveman. Yes, I'm more gorilla-ish in my emotional development in a lot of ways. But it's just not fun when every day I go to pick Sam up out of the crib. Well, Mama, I don't know where Mom is, man. She's in the bed. I tell you where she's not. She's not picking you up right now. I love that you revert
to talking to him like he's just another dude.
I'm like,
come on, dude. I don't know where she is.
Why don't you ask her why she chose not to come get you? Who is right here right now? Your dad, who is showing up.
And then, oh man, there's so much we could say about this. Our girls, so our room is downstairs. Our girls have the upstairs bedroom. So in the mornings, I would typically, again, because Amy's working hard, she's with the girls all day. So when they get up in the morning, I'm going to get up and let her sleep for a little bit. But I'm starting, they can hear me coming up the stairs. They can hear it.
And they know by the footfalls.
Yeah.
They know.
Yeah.
They're already.
But I open the door, and my beginning of my day, not even to mention that my day's starting an hour before I would prefer it to start. I open the door to, no, Mama,
And you're not being facetious. That is genuinely what they are doing.
No.
You're not trying to be funny right now.
The only way that I'm not giving it justice is that there are two voices.
And higher and louder.
Yeah, and more like gravelly screaming.
And much more disappointed than you're portraying.
And it makes me want to say, as a dad, I'll go quickly to like, hey guys, what are you wearing?
Yeah.
Pajamas? Yeah. What's that bed that you're sleeping on?
Isn't it nice
what's
and
over
cool
your head
up here?
Yeah.
God, it feels
Is that the
pleasant.
AC?
God, that's nice. And isn't it amazing the sun isn't blaring through the windows because of those blinds? Don't y'all love this area of town too? It's great, isn't it? I mean, it really. I don't feel like this gets talked about enough. It's like, because again, there's a stereotype of like moms are the sweet, nurturing, so the children want. But like, dudes, we love our kids deeply.
Yeah.
I want my kids to love me and be around. I love to be around them. And there just comes to a point where you're just like, I'm not in the mood for this right now.
Yeah.
I
don't want to start with rejection.
No. Every day I start with
two
rejection.
Of the three most important people in my life
do not want
just
to be
reject me.
They
rebuke me
at zero. At zero. I mean, because my sweet wife, she gets so overwhelmed. I know Amy's the same way. So overwhelmed, like kids are always. Oh my, let me guess. They're crying. What did Mama? Okay, I can. And I'm like, I know that's tough, and I'm not comparing my toughness to yours, but I'm dealing with a different kind of toughness over here, which is just
this. We'll save this for the marriage episode in the future, but that married with kids is an endless array of wanting to switch places with each other.
Yeah.
I
think that's really fair.
Because when I'm on tour, for example, my day is I wake up, I see what part of town we're in or whatever. I go to a coffee shop. I sit at a coffee shop. I get a great coffee. I get some avocado toast. I sit there on my computer. I make some phone calls.
So Australian of you.
You know, I go on a run.
Mm-hmm.
I go, to sound check. I'm hanging out. Probably see some friends.
Yeah.
Who are in the city. Everything that Amy would love to do.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, all I want to do is be at home. I just want to take them to the library or whatever.
Yeah.
Amy is taking them to the library while they are fighting with each other. And
what is that avocado toast like?
She's like, I would kill to just sit in silence.
Yeah.
At a coffee shop.
Yeah.
With a book for 20 minutes.
Oh, I know. I know.
Anyway.
So let's do a couple of deep dives here. You ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do a couple of deep dives. What are the things, when you think of the girls, what are some of the things as a dad you really hope you pass down?
Man, that's a good question. Gosh, I feel like I focus so much on the habits that I don't want them to get.
Well, that's
from
part
me.
B, so we'll get to that. Yeah.
I feel like I have a pretty carefree attitude, kind of way about me.
Yeah, you're definitely laid back. Yeah,
I'm laid back, and I feel like I have an ability to empathize with people and listen. Mm. I think that Amy has that 10,000 times over, and has maybe even helped bring that out in me. But that's something that I hope between the two of us, we genuinely care about other people, and hopefully they'll get that, from us. On a less serious note, because I tell myself that this doesn't matter and I don't care. If one of them looks at a piano, I get so excited. And we don't own a piano, but I'm buying a piano because we need to have one in the house.
Yeah.
I've got my little writer's shed in the back that they can come back and, play a little bit. And Luca has played a little bit, and I think genuinely has a knack for melody, and and she can play Jingle Bells on the piano, stuff like that. But I hope they get something. I don't know what it'll be. They can be whatever they want. But Amy is a great soccer player, and that was a big part of her life. She played soccer all through college. So I know on some level she wants them to experience that. Not that they need to be, like Mia Hamm, but there's a long list of things that I hope they don't get from me. While I feel like I'm laid back, sometimes I feel like I have a work ethic that I'm working for the wrong reasons. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm working to prove something to other people. Just all that kind of stuff that we all typically feel.
Yeah.
Feeling like I need to be successful and all that kind of stuff. And this is probably how my parents feel about me and my brother and sister. But being their dad and knowing their place in my life and how they are angels walking the earth, everything else doesn't matter. Nothing. And I feel like I will probably always feel that way when they're in their mid-20s trying to get a career going or whatever, and they're really stressing about it. As their dad, I'm going to see everything will probably be in perspective for me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's tough for me to do in my own life, but I hope that they have a little better perspective on that than I do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
What about you?
I do think humor, I'd love to see them be able to really appreciate and enjoy laughing, which thank God they do. Because I think that's such a gift, to really able to take life with a grain of salt. And, I think your girls are great about that too. That's one thing. This isn't something I want to pass down as much as it's something that's really important to me. And we talked about this, I think, initially on the first episode, but I just really want them to know how loved they are. I want them to know that that they're supported. That I said this, but I think that's one of the gifts that my mom and dad, but my mom especially, because we were around her so much more. I just always knew that she loved me. That I was a joy to her. That I was never a burden. That I was never in the way of something. I was never keeping her from anything. And I think for my kids, I hope and pray to the nth degree that they feel the same way, that they would know that they're such a gift, that I'm thankful for them, that they're beautiful additions to the life that Annie and I have. Yeah. So that's something I hope I can pass down, that they understand, and because I think that does so much for literally just your worldview, especially from your dad. I think to know that as we're working and doing these things that sort of are more characteristic of a dad or whatever, that they would at the same time see like, man, that wasn't something that I kept him from or kept him from me, whatever, that he was still so, thankful. And two, and I know you feel the same way, but, my faith and just God. And
Mm-hmm.
I'd say maybe the biggest thing is that God provides.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean monetarily, but God is faithful and good and more than I can ever be. And I think that's really hard to do as a dad, is to how can I set my kids up for God to be God and not for me to be God?
Yeah.
So that's a big thing.
Yeah, that is tough as a dad, because
Yeah,
you want to just take care of everything.
And I think you are for a while. I think you are
Yeah.
God until they kind of get that concept. And then our job is to then go, okay, now that you can sort of understand this, let me show you how this works, and how it is. I think things I'm scared about, I think, as you said, there's a bajillion of those things. I think I'm really easily distracted. I get really scared about that a lot of times, that I can sort of be, my flights of fancy and how unattentive I can be to things sometimes. In my impatience, I mean, sadly, Annie and I both have droves of that. And so there's times where I'm like, man, our kids, they just got a double dose of just two parents who are like, just have no ability to sort of like what you do so well. I think you and Amy both, hey, just breathe. It's all going to work out, It's a lot of little things. I mean, to your point, it's like I think I can think of big things, but it's more just minutia. It's more, sadly, like real life, everyday things. I think I can be really short-tempered with them sometimes. I always get scared about that. What do you think your biggest fear as a dad is?
I think this is an irrational fear, but I think my biggest fear is that they would somehow miss it completely. And all of a sudden, I mean, to be honest, like that 20 years from now, I find that they're both working at a strip club, and I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like, well, you never cared. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like I have this like irrational nightmare in my mind. But the other thing is that I fear that it's sort of like on the other side of that coin, is because I know of the weight that you have in their life, and like everything that Amy and I does matters so much to them. Like we are shaping, not to get into the whole nature versus nurture thing, but as far as nurture goes, we are shaping all of it. We are responsible for so much. And, my dad and I had this conversation a couple months ago where we were talking about somehow this random memory came up. Anytime I get in the car, I put my seatbelt on, and almost every time I get in the car, I sort of, on some level, remember this memory. I put my seatbelt on because when I was a kid, there was one time where my whole family was in the car. We're driving down the interstate, and for the thrill of it, I guess, I took my seatbelt off. And I'm like sitting, I'm like 6-year-old me, and I just like take it off, and I just like slowly, I just want to feel the feeling of like, I don't have my seatbelt.
Freedom.
I don't have my seatbelt on right now.
Sweet freedom.
No one knows it. And then after a while, I get scared, and I'm like, I better put this thing back on. So I start to like slide it back over, and my sister's sitting next to me in the middle, as we always, it was me, my sister, my brother, and she feels me trying to click the seatbelt back, and she immediately is like, John's not wearing a seatbelt. And my dad, probably because he had a rough day that day. At the time, I'm thinking this is because it's the worst offense I could have possibly done. He reaches back, and like a bullseye, like a dart to a bullseye, his hand just goes right to my shirt, and he pulls me up. And as he's driving, like one hand on the wheel, he pulls me up to him, and he's like looking at the road, turning, yelling at me, looking at the road. And he's like, every time you're in the car, you put your seatbelt on every single time. You never take your seatbelt on. And so we've never talked about this memory. This is a random memory. But we talked about it a couple months ago, and he remembered it.
He did.
He remembered it. And this is 30 years ago. And he's like, I remember feeling so guilty for that. That was such a, he lost his cool. It was about something else. He had a rough day that day, or it wasn't about this moment that he really wanted to hammer home for me. But I was like, but Dad, I always wear my seatbelt. Who knows if I would have always worn my seatbelt if it weren't for that moment. So this is this like horrible moment in his mind. This is like a black eye on that day. For me, 30 years later, I've been wearing my seatbelt for 30 years. I never don't wear my seatbelt. So that's a long-winded way of me saying, like, I realize that I hold so much weight because I have all these things that I do as a 35-year-old dad that I'm like, oh, I do that because my dad said something back in 1993.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Those two are pretty much verbatim. I have a lot of other ones, but I would say the two paramount fears are one, that you said it perfectly, it just gets missed. Whatever that thing that I'm here to instill in my children gets missed. And they come back someday and they're just not able to function in the real world because that little slot, that thing that we push into their backbone that makes it sturdy and it's there, just never went in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? I didn't know. Like, you just didn't do that thing, and now I'm.
Well, because you're not going to get it all right.
Yeah.
So I know that I'm screwing my kids up on some level. I'm just trying to screw them up as little as possible.
And then I think to your point too, again, verbatim, my other fear that these little moments that may seem like passing moments to me, I've done irreparable harm. That we have. Walking onto the baseball field, and I pull the bat from Ben because he's waving around, and I go, and I say something that he goes, I never played baseball again because of that moment. And I'm like, what? And he's like, you scared me so much that I associated that fear with baseball, and that's why I hate sports. And I'm like, from grabbing a bat, and I think, small segue, which is what squirrels ride. I feel like it is such a reminder to me. I mean, I've talked about this with so many other dads. I think one of the things that is such a calling, it may be the most important thing. Like, maybe I don't know that it is, but I think it's at least amongst the most important things, is apologizing as a dad. And it gives me so much hope and comfort to know that, especially in these seminal years, like these young years for our children, when they're really learning us and learning life, to be able to apologize, because there is something so insanely powerful in that moment, because you can have a massive blow up, genuinely, like scare the crap out of your child. But if you can really sincerely apologize and they see in you a brokenness and a want for repentance and redemption, it's crazy how resilient they are. It may leave some kind of memory in their brain.
Yeah.
But accompanying that memory is the fact that you knew that you had done something wrong. It was called something wrong, treated as something wrong, and you reconciled for your wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that has given me so much hope for that second fear. That fear of like, what is that thing? What are those 20 things I'm going to do throughout their childhood that some, wonderful counselor is going to sit down with them someday and go, so to my dad, and like, he was great, but gosh, and then like, all right, let's write down, and like, well, the baseball, when he grabbed the bat from me, I'll never forget. And there's going to be those. It's a fallen world. We're fallen people. But I think the hope I have with a lot of that stuff is knowing that the apology part of that is so profoundly important. And for me and you to be aware of those things, to have enough presence as a dad to go, okay, hey, give me a few minutes. You guys go ahead. Let me sit down with Ben and talk. And I think that is such an important piece. And I've found that a lot of my friends who had parents that were really good at that, it's really profound what it did to their growing up.
Yeah.
And how their parents were fallible, wonderful, and heroes, but at the same time, not perfect. And again, that's I think the beginning of that shift from dad as God to, oh, well, then he can't be God. He messes up. Well, then what is God? And that's then our chance to sort of, begin those kind of conversations and that kind of stuff. But we just have such a massive, massive responsibility. I mean, knowing how much we shape the backbone of these kids how much our responsibility in sort of steeling them against the waves of the world and life and bullies and breakups and disappointments and job firings and terrible, awful things, initially for a long time is really kind of in our hands. And I think knowing that responsibility, to your point about your first fear, is such a massive deal. It's such a big deal. And I think being cognizant of that is such a great, wonderful gift, but it's also really overwhelming because you kind of realize, like,
so overwhelming.
You know, like, again, you sit with really about anybody, and you know, I mean, it's the quote we read last week, you know, tell me about, or I don't know if we even talked about that last time, but tell me who your father is and I'll tell you who you are. And that's the truth. It's the truth. Like, you know, so much of how we think about the world is shaped by our fathers. Mm-hmm. And I think knowing that is wonderful because you kind of know the secret, but it's unbelievably overwhelming because you have this new standard. You know, you have sort of a measuring tape to kind of go like, how am I doing? You know? And I'm either, oh, great, okay, it feels pretty good, or man, I'm way off, or I didn't even know that was, you know. Yeah. Whatever.
Which I think I go back and forth between, I'm so on this.
Yeah.
I am so attentive.
Yeah.
Tonight I'll work after they go to bed. I'm going to be around all day.
All day. Yep.
I tell them I love them 10,000 times a day. If there's a problem that comes with that, they'll have that. I don't know what that is. We'll deal with it when we get there. And then, you know, like in the middle of the night as I'm laying in bed, I'm like, oh, I'm messing this up.
Oh, my gosh.
There's something I'm missing.
The reason they like their mom more is because she actually loves them.
Yeah, actually, it's not in the middle of the night. It's in the morning when they're like,
no, Dad, not you again.
Yeah.
Mama, no daddy, mama, no daddy, mama. All you wonderful, beautiful, kind people, thank you so much for listening to the episode.
If you have a second, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and write a review.
Unless it's bad.
Because that stuff really does matter.
And please follow us on socials. You can find us everywhere at Dadville Podcast.
Also, you can follow us each at Dave Barnes Music and at John McLaughlin to find out more about our music.
Thanks for listening. Dadville.